You're listening to Scorched. A raw, real, and unfiltered podcast about drag racing and motorsports. Hosted by the man willing to burn it all down. And now, the man himself, E3 Extreme's own Damon Steinke.
Well, and they're all going to have a hard time with that because, let's face it, these kids aren't going to beat my J.R. Sandlin photo from earlier. I'm not even going to be modest about that shit. That photo fucking broke the internet.
And they're not gonna take a pro mod and park it downtown in front of a movie theater.
You know, and it's funny because I said, and I was talking to myself about this recently, and this will come out obviously a couple of weeks after we're doing this, but last weekend. Obviously, Craig Sullivan won his first NMC event with the new Mercury.
Debut event for the car. Yep.
You guys, there was another outlet. I use that term very fucking loosely because they can't determine what the hell they actually are.
Oh, stop! I'm not bagging on those guys. I mean,
no.
The photos were badass. It was a good article. I mean,
it was an article. So, but then you dropped the photos, which I had already seen a couple. I had seen Craig's car, I don't know, 6 weeks before, whatever it was, and I was absolutely in love with it. So earlier this year, we dropped those J.R. Sandlin photos, and everyone was nuts. I got a lot of calls and everything about that. And then you turn around and drop the Craig Sullivan photos that you did in front of a theater.
Well, Allie and I, it was a team.
What was it? In downtown Fayetteville?
Yes, it was a team photo shoot. Like we planned. I'd had some images in my head for a couple of years.
Well, we had talked about that at one point,
You and I went there and had coffee at that coffee shop.
Yeah.
Looked at that and I said, "This is where I want to shoot this. If I can ever get anybody to let me take their fucking $300,000 car."
Because there was another car that we wanted to do down there too.
I had two different cars that showed up that came and went that we couldn't get it done with. Well, Sullivan, like anybody who doesn't know Craig, Craig is an all-in kind of guy.
Yes.
So he shows up, unloads this thing. I'm looking at it and I tell him, I say, "Look, I have this idea," and he's like, "Fucking let's do it."
Yep. So
we worked 2 days or whatever on this thing, get it all set up, we're good to go. And we finished up early and I said, "All right, let's do it now." So I made my phone calls, had my brother-in-law come scoop this thing up on the rollback. We're cruising into downtown Fayetteville. I'm talking
in a brand new pro mod.
Brand new. This thing's, brand new. But I mean no permits, no call ahead except for the girl, the barista at the coffee shop and the night manager from the theater.
Yeah.
So
the city didn't know that you were going to be parking up on the sidewalk.
Nobody knew. We just pull up with this rollback, block traffic, and unload a pro mod in the middle of the street in downtown Fayetteville.
And that's how you get shit done too.
And so the barista and the kid from the theater, he came in. They're closed on Mondays. This was a Monday night, which is fortuitous because you can't do this with movie going and traffic going in.
No, it would have been interesting to try. It would have, but long exposure.
Yeah. So we the kid comes in, he turns all the lights on so it looks like everything's all the marquee lights are on. We move all the sidewalk dining tables and everything out of the way and push this thing right up in there and so Allie and I had planned out what kind of lenses we wanted, who was going to shoot with what, and so we had our kits together, we were ready, and then it turned out that everybody downtown was cool as fuck. They were happy to have it, and everybody was really relaxed. We didn't have any kind of trouble at all, so we were able to take our time and really figure out what we wanted to do. And
I know that people are going to ask, as far as because you and your wife both shoot with Canon.
Yep.
You guys did you guys use any external lighting?
No.
On that setup?
No, it's 100% natural.
It's all natural lighting.
Natural. Yep.
Because people are like, well, you got to use all these big lights and lighting modifiers and all this stuff.
No, you have to pick the right time of day.
It helps.
I mean, if you're going to do this and you know the orientation, okay, so it's a typical downtown. It's laid out, in grids, and you know which way the sun comes from. And my wife goes down there all the time, knows the area, and she knew what time of day. So we planned it for the right time of day. I scheduled it according to that, and we knew that there was going to be this crossover time where we had the setting sun, the golden hour, if you will. The light, natural light, was going to be good enough that we could shoot at the ISO we wanted to, expose this the way we wanted to, and we would still be able to turn the lights on and have the benefit of the neon. So it was just a matter of timing.
Would you say that outside of your photojournalism stuff, would you say that those were probably the best motorsports photos that you've taken?
Yeah, because I don't take motorsports photos.
Well, that's true. You won't see Mark at the track with a camera.
I don't. I mean, I've taken a couple here and there. I think but it's mainly just maybe she's had her camera or something. I've been like, hey, let me see that thing, and snap, and then here you go. But I don't take pictures at the racetrack.
No. You don't like to be seen at the racetrack.
And
for that
she's
matter.
probably taken 100 at the racetrack in all these years. So it's not like she's taking a lot of pictures at the racetrack either.
I just spilled on myself. It's all good.
That. That's all right. I don't give a
Yeah,
shit.
well,
It's your shirt, not mine.
It's all the ice. I want to go back to the space program that you talked about earlier. You grew up very interested in aerospace and things like that. So I want to get you.
We're 70s born,
Yes.
80s kids. So it's the the space
Challenger.
shuttle.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we were still doing cool shit when we were kids.
Yeah, like playing outside.
We weren't having to hitch a fucking ride with the Russians or pay some fucking contractor to fly us to the space station.
Well, and that's my question. So we've seen numerous wealthy people, I guess.
Fuck them. Space is not the new midlife crisis for rich motherfuckers. Okay, buy a Corvette, get a girlfriend with big titties, or whatever you need to do. But seriously, leave space up to the professionals. Anybody that thinks that SpaceX and all of these contractors are space professionals, all they did was hire up all the people that left NASA when we canceled the space shuttle program, and all that talent and all that knowledge went and diffused into the private sector. I mean, it's not, they didn't invent shit. They didn't figure shit out. They just took the best and the brightest of all the knowledge base that was built off of taxpayers' money and turned it into for-profit corporations. And I'm usually all for capitalism and corporations and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to space, fuck you. I want NASA. I want the People's Space Agency. I don't need Orbital or SpaceX or Boeing or any of the rest of those motherfuckers trying to make money off space. I have horrible nightmares about here's a perfect plot. You want to write a science fiction novel? They legalize space mining. Somebody breaks the rules, sets in motion this horrible thing where some giant asteroid that they've towed in is now coming to fuck up the Earth. There's the plot of a perfect science fiction novel. Because nobody, when you put profit first, nobody can seem to have any self-control.
No.
That it naturally runs away into a situation that virtually compromises everything in its path.
Well, we joke around all the time. You see it on the internet all the time. The moment that we end up colonizing the moon or Mars or whatever, the first two things you're going to see are Walmart and Dollar General.
Probably so.
Because, you gotta make money.
The Waltons or the Popes will be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's... So you are not a fan of these ultra wealthy trying to charge people a ridiculous amount of money to go to space, because really they're
going to the edge of the atmosphere to begin with.
They're not really going to space.
And to clarify, so nobody's confused, the space program has always relied on private contractors. I mean, that NASA itself didn't build any of those things. There were companies that built all of those things. and that's perfectly okay. But the idea of it, it's kind of like the networks, ABC, CBC, CBS, NBC. Those things were funded by and developed on orders from Congress years ago, so that we could inform and have an informed electorate. Like it's laughable now,
yeah.
But it's laughable because Congress allowed that shit to be sold out and privatized and turned into some bastardized, adulterated version of itself that relies on advertising dollars. Well, I'm convinced that you do the same thing to the space program, and all you're going to do is roadblock any kind of future like development as far as research and knowledge and just things that are done purely for the knowledge of what we're doing, and it's all going to be sold to the highest bidder, just like Elon Musk and his Starlink satellites. Fuck him, man. You fucked up astrophotography for the whole planet because you're a greedy cocksucker and you want to put like these things up there for people to get internet somewhere. I mean, we don't need 335 satellites flying around in a big circle up there just for Starlink. I mean,
yeah.
It would serve us right as a species if our space junk would fall down on us and like end humanity.
Listen, I told you what I thought about, a lot of other things
I
tonight.
said when Bezos tried to shoot himself into space in the Amazon space dildo that I thought that the best thing for humanity would be if that guy burned up on re-entry. I mean, fucking Amazon has goat-dicked retail, period.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucked brick and mortar and mom and pops and killed like hometown America.
Have we gotten? It's because we've gotten lazy though too. We've gotten so complacent.
I don't know if we're lazy or complacent, or if we just don't want to go out because we've overpopulated the fucking planet so much that anywhere you go is infested with humans.
Yes,
it's a swarming anthill of dipshittery everywhere you go. Who wants to do that? So it's easy to just prime that shit. Fuck it, get it here. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm on the chair in my underwear. I don't have to deal with people.
Yeah.
That's what's happened. But all of that too kind of gets back to the idea of community and the fact that we are such a displaced people now that we don't have any sense of like home or community or roots or any loyalty to where we're from or any ties to the land. People live in neighborhoods and don't know their neighbors.
Yeah.
They
intentionally avoid the neighbors.
Intentionally avoid them, right? Like I don't have time for that. I don't want to know these people. I mean, you come here and visit, and we go up to the feed store. We know our neighbors there. My other neighbor down the road helps when we cut hay, and
like I know all the neighbors in my neighborhood.
Helps when we load cows, and we have had to kind of rely on each other, and so that sort of reliance on each other makes for good neighborly relations. We have things in common. Our agrarian bond because we're all farmers around here, and we have similar beliefs about a lot of things, and they're just good people.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they're all older, and I don't know what's going to happen when they're gone and their kids and grandkids.
You'll get a bunch of fucking yuppies in here who won't want to know your name.
That's been the problem with rural America is that it's so damn hard to make a living as a farmer that you don't tell your kids to take over the family business. You tell them to get the fuck out. Do anything but this, because you can't make a living doing this. You can't even pay the taxes on the land because the land value is skyrocketing because some hedge fund somewhere is investing in property everywhere, left and right. And so when the folks get old, the kids look at this farm and they don't see anything. They're not loyal to that land anymore. They've grown to resent it because they've seen what it's done to their parents. And the next logical step is to sell it, let somebody put a ski lodge there or a subdivision or whatever. And then that further fuels the increase in land prices, and a society that makes land so valuable and agriculture so devalued is like on a collision course.
Well, and it makes no sense because we need the agriculture to begin with.
Yeah, but when you've made land so valuable that it's no longer profitable or economically feasible to grow food on it, then what?
Yeah. It's just, it'll become a bubble that'll burst in everybody's face eventually.
Well, that was kind of the point of the nonprofit when we built the Pasture to Pantry Food Foundation. That was a big part of that we wanted to kind of figure out was how the hell do we find those old farmers and the young people, because there are now a lot of young people that have become aware of the issues of food production and the need for community-based farming and for local food systems and things like that. And if you can put those two together and figure out ways to create entrepreneurial opportunities for young people to farm on a manageable scale, something that they can do and be profitable and make money at, then you have a chance.
Now tell people, because we haven't talked about this during this episode. You also have a not-for-profit that
I put it together for my 40th birthday. That was my birthday present to myself. Was to start a charity, and it was just something I believed in. I mean, I'm a 5th generation cattleman. My mom's family has a big place in western Kansas. We've got the 2 farms here in North Carolina that have been in the family, and I know so many young people who have had to leave farming or get away from it, or who are the last in line, and they are looking at a place that's that used to be a farm, but now it's not active because the grandparents were the last one that farmed it, and they don't know what to do. Are we going to sell it? Or, some land developer wants to put a subdivision here, and they're offering us more money than we've ever seen in our life. We can't count the zeros on the check because we've never seen anything that big. And then, once it's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. You can't remake it. And that's alarming to me that, we're losing acres and acres an hour of farmland in this country to development. And we're losing acres and acres in the southeastern United States in particular. We're mowing down softwood forest as fast as we can chew it up to create biomass pellets that they can burn in Europe to create green electricity, which is the stupidest fucking thing that anybody ever contrived, because it's renewable, because you can grow a new tree, but you're recycling carbon. It's just a fucking, it's an ill-contrived bullshit roundabout way to skirt a regulation. And in the end, the poor regions of the southeastern United States are the ones that suffer the most because they're deforested and, clear cut and oftentimes not replanted, or if so, hastily done, and it's not conducive. You can't cut down old growth forest and replant 14 million loblolly pine trees to replace all that species diversity. It doesn't work. Once you've done that, you've essentially sanitized it. Once it's sanitized, it doesn't regrow. The culture that grows in place is not the same as what was there. And we're not smart enough as a species to understand the ramifications of all of that. And yet we go ahead and we do that stuff anyway.
And that brings up an interesting question that you and I have talked about before, and I'll ask, how do you balance I wouldn't define either of us as a tree hugger, though some people would argue, because they think if you care about nature at all that you're a tree hugger, and that's not quite how that fucking works. How do you balance your love for and respect for nature and earth and everything involved with that versus what you do for a paycheck, which is what some people would say is directly contributing to the problems that we have on Earth. So the drag racing versus
drag racing is a very, very small sliver of the population. So if you add up what we do, I don't think that we make a huge impact. It is an exceptionally wasteful endeavor. I mean, anybody that's been around it knows how much shit we fuck up. And I mean, like, truckloads of it every weekend. And we throw it away and we make new stuff. And it's a wonderful cycle that creates a pretty healthy motorsports economy. So I guess, to answer that, like, for me, the balance is to understand that, what we do in the grand scheme of things is not that big, but it's a profitable business model. And it allows me the freedom to do the stuff that I do, like raising cattle and doing rotational grazing and, regenerative farming and all that kind of stuff. I mean, in the end, I try to balance the scale, and I try to live, my wife and I, we live very reasonably. Our home is not large and we don't do things extravagantly. We grow most of the shit that we eat right here on the farm. We just don't do stuff that's terribly wasteful. And I don't think that that's out of any sort of like hippie green tree hugger mentality as much as it's just that we were both raised by people who were reasonable and frugal, and we don't see a lot of value in having a 12,000 square foot house and a helicopter to fly to work 4 miles away. I don't.
And it certainly doesn't hurt knowing where your food's coming from.
No, not at all. Not today, more so than ever. There's probably some link between the crazy way that food is raised and the crazy way that people act. Like it's,
agree.
Anything that's been raised in that kind of an environment, all of that misery must somehow transfer to the people who are consuming it. And
it wouldn't surprise me.
And rightfully so, probably,
Now, obviously the day-to-day job is drag racing outside of the farm and the horses and everything. But that's not your passion. Your passion is like F1 and
vintage, Formula One, meaning anything from the inception of Formula One in the 50s up to the end of the 1970s, early 1980s. That's when Formula One was cool.
And World Rally stuff too.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, everybody loves Group B. I mean,
he got me hooked on. I went down the YouTube.
If you don't know what it is, look it up.
Look up Group B on YouTube, and you'll fall down a rabbit hole that you'll never get out of.
These were people who had they had to leave their nuts in the pits because they were too big to fit in the car.
You couldn't fit those things in a dump truck.
And the best one was a girl. So I mean,
I watched that.
Michelle Mouton was just fantastic, a phenom, incredibly talented.
So why have you never gone down? Do you guys do anything like with road racing and things like that?
We do some sports car stuff. We have some road race customers. There are all kinds of different sort of reasons that we're not heavily involved in that. Primarily, the drag racing stuff just consumes so much of our time. It's hard to get over there and do any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's a whole nother genre that requires staff that can be at the racetrack and be actively involved in what those cars are doing at the same level that we're involved with drag racing, and we don't have the people to go do it. And it's like anybody who knows what it's like out here right now, it's hard to hire people.
Yeah. Nobody wants to work. They want to.
Yeah, and if you got a guy that's really good at that stuff, he's already doing it somewhere.
So do you?
I mean, we could go headhunt somebody to go get involved in it.
It would cost a fortune.
And some of that stuff's not nearly as profitable as you would think it is. I mean, because at the highest level, most of those teams have internalized all that stuff. They have their own shock program, their own shock techs. They're doing everything in-house. And then at the lower and mid levels, You know, it's not unlike drag racing. They're going to buy one set of shocks for a car and race that thing forever and ever unless they wad it up somewhere.
So I want to talk to you about something because obviously you've been very instrumental in turning me on to I've always loved World Rally stuff. And Baja stuff. And
I like the old Formula One because in the mid 70s, you could buy a Cosworth and a chassis, and if you had a good driver and some people that knew how to work on the thing, you could go win a Formula One race out of your garage.
Yeah, you can't do that now.
Fuck no.
I
It
mean,
cost you $1 billion to become a member.
Yeah.
So that you can go race and fund a team. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Ellen and I had done some research into like the R&D just on the Red Bull team and what their budget is every year, and that's a lot of that's public stuff. But
the book How to Build a Car by Adrian Newey, that's a great glimpse into just how crazy it is.
So do you watch any of the newer Formula One stuff?
Not really.
So what I've noticed,
it's been a 2-team series for 30 years. Fuck it.
Now I did call you earlier on this year because I had ran across a video on the internet about a crash that happened last year, the Bahrain Crash, I believe it was, where the chassis had split in half. He went under the guardrail, got stuck under the guardrail.
Caught on fire.
Huge fireball.
Yep.
You can go on YouTube and easily find it. It was an F1 crash in, I think it was Bahrain last year.
Yep. Huge
Fireball. He was in the fire for like 28 or 30 seconds, whatever it was. Walked away. The only thing he had were some burns on his hands.
Yep.
Is or when will drag racing, because you and I see a ridiculous amount of passes, are we ever going to get to the point in drag racing where people give a shit enough about their own lives that our safety will get to... I thought it would have happened by now, and it hasn't.
Well, I mean, I don't want to downplay the safety in drag racing because I think that for what they're intended to do, the cars are engineered pretty damn well. And that's evidenced by the guys that have big crashes and they get out of the things, or they have minor injuries, but they're not dead. And I think that, you know, that spat of deaths that happened a decade ago probably influenced things quite a bit. I guess, you know, when Kalita and Eric Medlin, and so there was a huge, my understanding, I wasn't heavily involved in drag racing at the time, so I can't speak to that on any
There
authority.
were definitely a lot of
changes made, especially at that level.
Yes.
Now, whether all of that really trickled down, I'm not sure, but I know like every year or so, NHRA hands down a shitload of updates that they have to make to the chassis specs for like the Pro Mod guys.
Yeah.
And that's a constant evolving thing. Helmet technology is better, suit technology is better, fresh air, Hans devices, fire suppression, all that stuff is getting better. Where I see the disconnect that makes no sense to me is as we move down the ranks to some of the more local stuff that happens, the fact that you can go so fucking fast for so not much money now, and people will climb into something that is really fast and race it at a racetrack that has no fucking business being at, where there's like people hanging off of guardrails like 2 feet away from it. They're wearing like fucking SpongeBob SquarePants pajama pants out of the Walmart and like a friggin' motorcycle helmet they bought at the Yamaha shop. They got a short sleeve shirt on and no gloves, and they're out there running fucking 440s at 160 or something.
Is that?
And I mean, I know it because some
I've
of these
seen-
people are our customers.
Yeah.
I've seen this shit firsthand. And it's like, all right, not only are you going to crash and fuck yourself up, but you've got something here that shouldn't be at this racetrack. And when it gets out of the racetrack, then all the parts and pieces of this disintegrating hunk of shit go flying around and kill 39 people. You're going to fuck it up for everybody else. Like, and that's what I guess my bone of contention with, like, if you want a no prep race, I think no prep is fantastic. You're participating in an event at a racetrack that's helping to bring in revenue to keep that facility open and to continue to grow our sport. Mm-hmm. So from that aspect, I absolutely love it. If you want to take your shit on the street and do something illegal, fuck you. That's the stupidest fucking thing that I've ever heard of.
Now, when you say
that won't
though,
be popular. I know I'll probably lose 4,000 customers because I'm not getting out and getting down in the street. But when you run your shit box through a minivan full of kids and we all get our balls sued the fuck off of us and we're on every news station and it fucking blows up in
words drag racing.
It's not
street racing.
It's not the same. And so you know, and if you're selfish enough that you don't consider that, or if you're foolish enough to think that you can get in that thing and take it out under those conditions and not have a mistake happen, not misinterpret the conditions.
It won't happen to me.
The drag racing at a racetrack between two walls with staff on hand is a controlled environment to the extent that it can be controlled. And shit still goes wrong there. When you introduce, we're out on a street somewhere with pine trees and wildlife and traffic and who the fuck knows what, you can't control those circumstances. I don't give a shit how talented you are or how good you can drive.
Now, just for clarification purposes though, there's a big difference between street racing, your shit box, and worrying about mom pulling out of the daycare with kids in her minivan, which happened.
Yep.
And the stuff that you see on TV when they talk about street racing, which is a closed.
That's not a
That is a closed
it's
TV
a
set.
Street, but it's just like shooting a movie. They're permitted. They have people on hand. Everything is.
They've got medical and everything.
It's a controlled environment.
Yeah,
you know.
It's like the racetrack without the walls and everything else.
But I pose a question to them, you know, and not being that guy. But here's my question: if you put on a TV show that glorifies street racing, and somebody goes out and street races and fucks up and kills 52 people in a church bus, then
only Mustangs leaving car shows do that.
No shit, right? So, but I mean,
fix your mic; it's falling off.
How do you avoid the liability from that? How does that work?
Is it? And people who know me know that I'm not a huge fan of that whole genre anyways. That is what it is. But they have done good with, just like Fast and the Furious did 20 years ago, bringing people into the motorsports industry. Whether it's the right way or not, I was under the impression that we were trying to get past street racing, but nonetheless.
Yeah, I thought that was the whole point. And I just, I have I feel very strongly about that. And like I said, I'm not trying to like turn people off or piss them off or chase customers off or whatever. But I mean, come on, man. There's everywhere there's a drag strip somewhere that's like struggling to keep the doors open. Go support them. Go take your car there and hot lap that motherfucker until you melt the torque converter out of it. I don't give a shit. But racing on the street with the stuff that we're able to put together now for not a lot of money, that's not 1987 when people were out there with 14-second cars.
Yeah,
These
I know.
fuckers have 4 and 5 second cars on the street.
Even in 90, where I grew up, late 90s, let's say 96-ish, 97. I mean, if you had a 12-second street car, you were a fucking badass. There was a couple of 8-second cars, but they weren't really street cars. They were cars that would come out and cruise once in a while, and if you can grab the $100 off the dash, you can keep it type of deal. But nowadays you've got cars coming from the factory that. Oh yeah. Well, look at that fucking Tesla from that last week, and you guys all know that I fucking hate electric vehicles. But that Tesla ran like a 903 or something in the quarter mile. And it's a showroom Tesla.
They're wicked. They're incredibly fast. And, that's... I don't know. I mean, it's like I said, the amount of bang for your buck that's available now. You can build a badass street car, you know. And I'm not saying that I'm a saint. I mean,
I've been there, done that too.
Everybody has done it, but when you start like taking it to extreme and like living out this like, you know, we're gonna go block the street off and have a race somewhere.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time mentality.
Yeah, you know, I see the potential for something that can bring all of us down or severely damage a sport and an industry that I care a lot about.
Well, and I likened it a couple of weeks ago when I did the Facebook Q&A. I talked about the diesel crowd and how the EPA has been picking on the diesel crowd. Well, these fucking idiots have been out there for years rolling coal and bringing unneeded attention on themselves. And then complaining about the attention that they get.
I mean, yeah, there's probably a lot of truth in that. I mean, you can't, you know, if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to roll coal, and I didn't realize that when I was going down the street rolling coal that the deputy chief of the Environmental Protection Agency was at that cafe having lunch with his wife.
Yeah.
And now you pissed the wrong guy off, and he's got a personal vendetta, and he's going to break it off in your ass from now until hell won't have it.
And it's the entire community that
suffers because of one dipshit.
Yep. All it takes is one sometimes.
Well, it's like these stupid motherfuckers here with their Carolina squatted trucks. I mean, if we want to get on something and rail on a subject.
Ass draggers.
Whoever the first guy was that came up with this.
That didn't buy the back lift kit.
I hope that this guy is castrated in a workplace accident so that he can't fucking reproduce. Because it is the worst possible fad that anybody could have ever... who the fuck came up with this?
And it's funny that you talk about that because... Obviously, we've talked about the Yukon that I'm going to be doing, which will not be squatted. But a lot of show promoters, especially the shows that I go to and cover for E3, our sister outlet LLBB, a lot of those promoters have banned squatted trucks and told the people. You have to send us photos if you want preferred parking to make sure it's not a squatted vehicle.
Yep.
I, for the life of me, don't understand why it is that people... I don't get it.
Can we pause real quick? I got a customer at the racetrack needs help.
Your stuff has won championships or races in NMRA, NMCA, every level of radial racing. Where do you want Menscer Motorsports to go from here?
I'm kind of realistic about my company. Like, I think I understand that the thing that makes us successful is the fact that we're not real big, and that we don't venture off on a tangent and go mess with, you know, some sports car racing or, you know, shocks for dune buggies or we don't, you know, we're not really all about the latest fads. We're good at what we do and we try to stay in our lane, and we do it on at a size and on a level that we can still do it good. So, like, what I'd like to do is honest to God, just continue to build shocks for whoever wants to go drag race, whatever discipline that is. You know, like, I don't care if you're a big tire guy, small tire, slick, radial, whatever. I mean, I want to keep building shocks, keep developing relationships with customers, and keep evolving and just getting better at what we do day in and day out, year after year. We've got some product lines that we're constantly developing, and we have gotten into some of the aftermarket performance stuff. We've gotten into some of the late model stuff. That's been a lot of fun. How we even do shocks for donks. I mean, We're actually the official shock supplier of the National Donk Racing Association.
Which I would have never. I remember when you and I talked about that, and I'm like, donks, okay.
They're cool as hell.
Oh,
they're fucking cool, man.
It's
you know what? They're
it's
cool.
not everybody's cup of tea, but it's still
cool.
super cool.
It's really cool. What they can do with with those big heavy things and the tire that they're working with, it's fun.
And you have
it's unique. It's something else. I like different. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I love all the stuff that we do, but I mean, I built a lot of shit for Fox Body Mustangs. So when somebody calls and they have something different, it's like, oh, hey, you kind of perk up a little.
And now you guys, I mean, realistically, you guys can do top sportsman stuff. You can do stuff for dragsters. Yeah. All of that stuff.
Yeah, we have competitive cars that run that stuff. I mean, we won. Jeffrey Barker won a national championship top sportsman with our stuff under the car.
And you've been on, like Jacob Lamb in NMRA who runs Coyote Stock. And for those that think you need to make 1,000 horsepower to warrant it, a Coyote Stock car is typically making in the 420, maybe 450, a small 26-inch tire with a manual transmission.
But they're finicky and they're hard to manage, and they're exactly the kind of car that we can get behind your program and help you with that thing.
Yeah.
Because we can nitpick that thing and figure out where the holes in your program are, and we can help
create consistency.
Absolutely. That and that's another thing. Anytime that you're racing a limited horsepower application in a heads-up situation, you have to maximize the car.
Yeah.
That's like crate late model racing. And for people who don't know what that is, you take the exact same shit that you see like World of Outlaws, Lucas Oil, those dirt late models, and you put a GM crate engine in there, and now everybody's limited horsepower and just about the same horsepower.
Comes down to more of the driver and the setup.
Driver and setup. Yep.
So, what are your thoughts on the electric vehicle movement? I don't know if you've seen like the Cobra Jet, the electric Cobra Jet, the electric dragster. That's thoughts.
It's gonna be the future of drag racing. I don't think nitro's ever gonna go away. I don't think that like blown alcohol is gonna go away. But I think that 30 years from now, we're going to be the goddamn old guys running around in our New Balance adjusting carburetors.
Or still fucking around with fuel injection because right now the 70-year-old guys are fucking around with points and carburetors.
And that's what's going to happen. We're going to go to the drag strip, or we're going to be out in the garage bitching about these kids with their EVs out there sounding like radio-controlled cars running up and down the drag strip with their fucking, my speed controller burn up,
self-driving EVs at the drag strip where all you have to do is stand there.
Your Tesla is going to avoid a collision and like get you out of trouble and not hit the wall.
Yeah, no shit. How do you think that works with a Tesla with a crash avoidance when you're at the drag strip? If you get too close to the wall, does it go, no, fuck you?
Drives you over into the other lane.
Oh, nope, there's somebody over there too.
Fucking
I mean, I don't think that we're going to see it anytime soon because I really don't think that we have the infrastructure to be able to do it.
No way. You don't have that, but it's going to be a persistent pressure that's put on, and it's going to be put on. And I don't, I predict this. I have no knowledge one way or another, but my guess is that eventually the manufacturers are going to be the ones that drive this. And by that, I mean the big automobile manufacturers. They're going, the adage win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Well, they're going to want to sell electric cars, so they're going to want them to win on Sunday. So there's going to be some sort of NASCAR, and there's already Formula E.
Yeah, Formula E and Indy.
And so there's going to be a movement,
which is really weird to watch if anybody's ever watched it because there's no sound. No, it's like
It's cool as fuck when they crash because it's like crunch, crunch, bang, crunch, bang, crunch, bang. There's no sound.
Yeah.
So you can hear all that carbon fiber being shattered to smithereens.
Now, I have seen other companies, Holley, for example, has already launched like Holley EV.
Yep.
So to concentrate on some of the EV stuff. Do you, as a business owner, do you think that there's an ability because really I think we're even before the infancy stage in EV.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that there's going to be a large aftermarket for EVs in the future? I mean, I can't tell because I don't know where battery technology is going to go.
Anybody that ever bought a radio-controlled car. No. I mean, it's the best, worst example I can come up with. Mm-hmm. But like, it's got a stock 26-turn motor. Well, fuck that. I want a 10 triple, and I'm going to go get these battery packs or whatever. I mean, now everything, of course, is brushless. That's how much I've dated myself from my Team Associated days. but that, that's going to be that'll be the next marketplace. I don't see how it's not. I mean, if eventually these manufacturers are going to, and it's just like what we're seeing, like with some of the late model stuff. It doesn't happen immediately when a car comes out. It takes years, but when that platform becomes out of warranty and cheap enough that people can afford to like get them and play with them and do that, then one of these things is going to prove itself to be the Fox body of the future, and it'll be the most conducive to that sort of modification, and there will be early adopters that start making parts for it. There will be different batteries that you can buy. There will be different, whatever kind of speed
We're going to see
control.
Charging stations at the racetrack?
Well, I mean, I think that people will probably, yeah. I mean, why not? Who the fuck knows, man? I mean, it could be like an episode of the Jetsons. There could be flying cars.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I think what you're going to find that, first of all, the big auto manufacturers, the more that they commit to this business model, the more they're going to put pressure on us, us being people in the industry, to take these things out. If it's not at the beginning, it'll just be exhibition runs. And then there'll be a few of them in a class. And then there'll be more and more and more. And that adoption process will be part of their marketing strategy to convert people over. I mean, it's not whether or not the environmentalists want to do it. It's not whether or not the EPA makes a rule or who the fuck the president is. None of that matters. It's dollars and cents. So you watch the big car manufacturers and you figure out where their investment is and which, what they're designing right now. Are they EVs? Or are they designing more internal? Who's designed a new internal combustion engine? There's not a lot of them out there. They're kind of sticking with known technology and older platforms or tried and true platforms, and they're sinking that R&D into their hybrid and EV models and their eco-friendly models. So the die's been cast, man.
That thing got a Hemi? No, it's got an EV.
Right. But I mean, what I know is like, if you go back to the old radio control model, when we were running RC cars 20 years ago, the electrics would kick the shit out of the nitro.
Well,
the nitros would rip and roar down the straightaway, but they were shit everywhere else because they were, the smooth application of power with an electric vehicle for the purposes of drag racing, when it's properly implemented, and in the future when motors and battery technology is lighter weight, will be like nothing you've ever seen.
Lastly, something I want to touch on so that everybody knows. Obviously, you do, custom race applications all the way up to the quickest radial cars in the world, and pro mods and everything in between. Tell people what you guys have, though, as far as your late model stuff, because I think you've got some Corvette stuff, Camaro stuff, Hemi stuff. You know, kind of tell people what, you know, if they've got one of these late model cars, what they can expect from contacting you guys, what you guys have for them.
We have, we do the Hellcat stuff, Hellcat Chargers, C5, 6, 7 Corvette, and we've been working on a drag race, track only C8 package, 5th, 6th gen Camaro stuff, S550 Mustang, of course Fox body, and SN95 and
the new Edge,
and all that stuff. Yep. I mean, so we have quite a bit of stuff available. We've been CTSV.
That's been a newer platform for you to work with, is the CTSV.
Yeah. Well, that thing has just developed into a monster. That whole segment. Mm-hmm. It started with a few, and now they are many, and they are badass. The LS platform. I mean. Yeah. You can, whether you love it or
speaks for itself,
hate it, but it's pretty friggin', it's rock steady, and it's affordable, and it's out there, and it's attainable by just about anybody. You know, if you got a reasonable job and you save your money and you're careful about what you do, you can fucking ride around town with 1,500 horsepower.
Now, for people wondering, because I know I've asked you this before when we first met, your stuff you can also do for the guy who drives his car to work and then takes it to the drag strip on the weekend.
Yeah, we do a lot of that.
The street strip, because that's a lot of us, at least when I was still driving one of my cars on a daily basis, it was drive it to work, take it to the track on the weekends.
Yep.
You guys can handle that too. It's not just track only stuff.
That's right. Yeah, and we have we'll build you a package and tell you where to set it to drive on the street to go take your kids to get ice cream, and then where to set it when you go to the racetrack and you want to race the thing. I mean, it's and like we've done stuff for drag week cars, all the stuff that we do, that like everything that we build for circle track, that stuff has to take a beating.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, anybody that's been and watched 100 laps, like the World 100, or watched a 50-lap feature at their local dirt track, when the thing gets all blown out and chunked up, and the track's got holes in it this deep, and those things are bouncing off the ground, like, trust me, you're driving around town is not going to hurt those things.
So if you guys are looking for shocks, struts, like you said, late model CTSVs, the Hellcats, the Corvettes, Camaros, Mustangs, if you've got them. And I know we had talked about doing some cool stuff with the Yukon when John in the shop, he's been really heavy in the development stuff the last year and a half, and so he's been designing things right through. I mean, he's done stuff for Audi RS3s and Volkswagens, and just all kinds of stuff. I mean, if somebody's cool to work with and they're patient, he's developed all kinds of stuff. If you're willing to wait and be cool, he's don't look for that instant gratification, because the wait is worth it.
No, but he's cooked up some pretty badass stuff, GTR stuff, Supras, you name it.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to wrap it up for this episode. Mark, I appreciate it. Indeed. And we will have Mark on again. Don't worry. He's going to, as much as he hates doing this bullshit with me, he really likes it deep down. So we're going to have him on again. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'll see you next week on the next episode of Scorched. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
You've been listening to Scorched. Raw, real, and unfiltered. Join us next time when Damon scorches it all again. To find previous episodes, news, commentary, and event coverage, head to E3 Extreme. There is no one better.